All right, Dion, by my count, you have about 124 teams listed on your page, 124 schools, a few are from outside the area.
Yeah.
But we're now down to, again, by my count, basically 17, I think, within the Kansas City metro area playing for state titles. So playing football. You got 12 games.
12 games.
And
6 on the Kansas side. 2, 3, 4, and 5 is 6. So there's 12. Class 6 has 2. There's 14. Class 2 has 2. There's 16. Class 18. There's 2 in Class 1.
18,
Adrian
so I didn't count right.
Adrian and East Buchanan. If I'm just off the top of my head.
Yeah. So
there's 2. Actually, it's 18 because there's 2.
Mill Valley, Blue Valley Southwest, Mill Valley, Lafayette County, Liberty North, Center, Smithville, East Buck. Are you counting Gallatin?
No. Adrian. Is Adrian not on there?
I'm getting to Adrian. Grain Valley, Fort Osage, Lamar.
That's not a local team.
Holden?
Yes.
Holden is. Lee Summit North, Adrian. Not Marionville, right?
No.
Some of these towns, I'm not sure where they are. Olathe Northwest, Gardner Edgerton, Pleasant Hill, St. Thomas Aquinas, Bishop Miege. I got 17. Unless I missed.
There's 6 on the Kansas side.
Yes.
2 in Class 6, so that's 8.
Yes.
2 in Class 5, that's 10. 2 in Class 4, that's 12. 2 in Class 3, that's 14. 2 in Class 2, that's 16. And 2 in Class 1, it's 18.
Who are the 2 in Class 1?
Adrian Eastbuck.
Okay, we'll settle this.
Holden, Lafayette County. Did you skip Lafayette County?
No, I did Lafayette County.
Pleasant Hill, Maryville. Or are you not counting Maryville?
I didn't count Maryville. That's it. My bad. It's outside of our coverage area on the TV side of KSHB 41. Glad we cleared that up. Live while we're rolling on the podcast and not beforehand. But that was a fun exercise. Hey, welcome to Snap Tackle Pod. I'm Mick Shaffer. When you can't do math or count, you go to TV, kids. Of KSHB 41. He's Dion Clisso. He's not much better, okay? He did, he does the writing, first to print, now to the internet.
It used to be much better. I had to keep my own stats.
Yeah.
Now that's mostly gone by the wayside. In fact, I had a area coach lament the fact that not everyone, and most notably a conference with 14 teams, does not use it.
Ooh, I know
a lot of them don't. Though
I know a conference
one of the 2 who remain from that conference does use digital.
There's 3 that remain from that conference, right?
No, from the 14 team conference, there's 2.
I must be thinking of a different.
No. Yeah, 3. 2 of the 3 do. 2 of the 3 do. Sorry,
2 of the 3.
I haven't moved. I haven't moved Mill Valley mentally over.
Digital Scout is great. Not only do you have like a season's worth of stats just right there at your fingertips, and you're not having to rely on, the schools uploading them to Max Preps. You never really trust Max Preps, right? But you also have them live pretty much.
For most of them, yeah. A lot of people use
I go at halftime on these games. I look up and I say, okay, this team only has this many yards, right? At halftime, or wow, this guy's thrown for this many touchdown passes already. It's almost instantaneous digital scout. What percentage of the teams use it in the area?
Probably we're getting close to 50. Maybe a little less. Because if one team uses it, we've been at 25 to 30 games, which is about half the games that has some sort of live stat. Ideally everybody would use it. It'd be great. We'd be able to have much more easier reports and things like that, and much more stat leaders out of it that way. There's a lot of things we can do with it. We can work on that. I get it. There are still plenty of coaches out there that do not want their stats out there, and
they want to make these hunt for them, don't they?
Yes, and there are at least 1 or 2 of those who are still playing in the playoffs, so that are old school in that sense, and we'll tell you straight up that's what they want. That's what they want.
And it's easy to look. Look, you can go and look at the weekly schedules, and you can see which ones have the red stats box next to their games. If they don't, they ain't doing them. Both of them aren't doing them, right? Because all you need is one school doing it.
And I had this about 5 weeks into the season, there was a team, a fan said, "Where are the stats from our team for this game?" And I said, "Well, you don't use the stat system. The reason you have those for the other, because they play in a conference where most everybody on their schedule used it. I said, when you play someone else, they use it. And he's like, oh, okay. And I'm not, the coaches have a choice and they can do what they want to do. And, it's a service we offer. We pay for it. So, I mean, it's something we do. We know fans like it. And I think, kids like it. I see people tweeting out screen grabs of it on Friday nights. And it's a great tool. And they're a great company. They kind of got bought a couple times. We were with them originally, like in 2012 and 13, and they got bought by a company that decided that the model was to make it behind a paywall, along with the videos and things like that. And eventually, that company didn't do very well, and we're just going to shut down the digital scout technology. And the guys who were working for them, who are about ready to be laid off, said, "Can we just have it?" And they took the company back. I think that and I'm not even sure if the other company's still in business. They still owned a tiny little piece, but it's these guys in Ohio that have been doing it for more than a decade now, and they've kept it pretty basic. They upgrade it where they need to. It does pretty well. There's still some things that could be a little bit better. They're working on those all the time. But John Adams and his crew over there, Digital Scout, are great people, and we're glad. And he tells us, I mean, we're one of the biggest traffic areas in the nation using Digital Scout. So good. We appreciate the schools that use it and the fans that appreciate it. So,
well, I mean, it would seem like every game's on Huddle, and every game is streamed at some point, some way or another. Almost like coaches are maybe ignoring the elephant in the room, to where like, okay, it's fine to have your stats there.
Well, and Huddle does stats, but they're not front end friendly. They're more back end coach use.
Yeah, and I've never seen the stats on Huddle. I've just seen the game, right? And,
and it's not great play by play. Where these digital scouts, both it has back end reports for coaches that only those coaches can see. Tendencies of their own teams, and things like that. And that being said, Digital Scout is a tool and is only as good as the person entering the information into that tool. Yeah. We have some that are fantastic, that are as good as anybody. And the guy's name is escaping me at Liberty. He's been doing it since day one. He does a great job at it. And there's the guys at Platte County do a great job of it. Your guys at Mill Valley do a great job of it. And they also take it seriously. Like if they're playing a team, they're not just selecting number 5 every time.
Right.
For the rushing
name and all that stuff.
They're just, they get the right guy. They try to get the right guy. Some of them go so far as to do tackles and try and do all that stuff.
I've seen that some.
Yeah. Some are better at that than the others. Because they have great spotters and they can do this kind of thing. So it's a great tool. Awesome. And we have a lot of teams that are still playing that are using it. So that's always a fun thing. It's always great for me to be able to, because a lot of these games on the Missouri side and some of them on the Kansas side at this point are behind paywalls. If you're out of town, you can't go see it. You can't pay, you can't pay the money you get behind that paywall. We've got another way you can follow along that game.
It's almost, it's almost like watching almost if you got it on stream and then you got another page open with PrepsKC.com and the stats, almost like watching like an NFL game or something. You have all the information right there at your fingertips. All right, let's get to it. Last week, week 12 of the football schedule. We talked about it. It's the beginning of a 2-week stretch of some of the best football you'll see all season in Kansas City. It did not disappoint. Let's start with some of the upsets. I don't want to, throw some salt like Kadarius Toney. We'll just call him surprising scores, maybe scores we didn't expect. I'll start on the Missouri side. Smithville at Kearney. The Warriors not only exacting revenge on a 1-point loss earlier in the season, but winning by 36 over Kearney, an undefeated team prior to that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I think it snowballed on Kearney because Smithville played so well, and I think that Smithville is a team that has that championship DNA. And they got caught early in the season by a Kearney team that was playing really well. Not that Kearney was not playing well coming into this game, but I think Kearney got to their top quicker than Smithville got to their top and stayed there. And so when Smithville got to their top by the end of the season, they got them in a really good game, which sets up a great game with center, who handled Nevada.
Hold on, we'll get to those.
We'll
get to those. We're piecing our way here through Snap Tackle Pod. We so salute to us. We're getting through 13
well,
weeks.
Well, and if anybody happened to, and if you don't listen to everything, you're probably a better person. But if you caught Snap Tackle Pod last week, that was recorded at 9:00 in the morning. If you caught our radio show, whether by podcast or on the show, to tell you a little secret, we do it in different pieces. Then we piece it together. It's all based on coaches' availability. Well, the last thing we do for the show each week is the open to each hour of the show. If you tuned in at 4:00 or you listened on the podcast page on Thursday or Friday, I am still alive because it sounded like I was dying.
I remember that.
The beginning of those first 2 hours. So, it was. I've been battling a head cold now for just a good old fashioned cold, not the flu, not COVID, just a good old fashioned. It's going to drain into your throat, make you cough at night, give you a sore throat. You're going to take Dayquil every day for. And by the way, I don't know why Dayquil thought they needed to come up with some sort of honey thing. Don't buy that. It sucks. It's horrible. Don't do the honey.
Just do the orange and green packets.
Yes,
right?
yes,
blue, whatever.
That's what you. Well, I like the cherry NyQuil. I don't have a problem with that. But survived last week. Am feeling better. In the process, have worked up a sty in this eye from having cold and the whole deal. And it's about this time of year. I remember back in 2012, I was no voice state championship weekend, Thanksgiving weekend. And managed to get it back to do the former Metro Sports show we used to do at Arrowhead. Barely got it back in time to do that for the Simone's.
Well, so lesson here is Smithville is peaking right now. Dion peaked like early October. Okay. And
yes, I think so. Trying to battle back, playing hurt.
The downhill. So a big win for Smithville. We'll talk about their game coming up with Center in a little bit. Again, not an upset, but a score we didn't expect. Blue Valley Southwest 69, DeSoto 35, and Dylan Dunn throwing 8 touchdown passes in that game.
8. Watch some of that. I'm sure that Coach King and his defensive staff would like to have some of those coverages back because seemed to be at least one guy running free every single time that they hit. They hit 5 touchdowns of 40 yards or more in that game. And it wasn't like somebody broke a tackle at the 15 and took off running. No, they were 15 yards behind the defense on most of those big long passes. So what shocked me was the fact that DeSoto's defense was playing so well. But I think that they hadn't seen a passing attack in a wide open team that had the skill players, that EKL type players that Blue Valley Southwest had. Yeah,
and they don't see that sort of attack much. And look, offensively too, DeSoto turned the ball over 6 times, and it could have been more. I mean, Blue Valley Southwest threw a pick 6 at the 5 going into score. They fumbled another time in for a touchback at like the 1-yard line. So a dominating performance by Blue Valley Southwest. And we'll talk about their game with Mill Valley coming up a little bit later on as well. Any other scores or games that maybe surprised you from last week?
Well, I know that Josh Korkenmeyer won't talk to me probably for the rest of the offseason because I picked them to win.
You picked them?
Yeah, I did. I totally put the jinx in on them. I will say I also picked another EKL team to lose, and I got a very nice email from that coach calling me a loser, to which I replied to him and said, obviously you haven't been paying attention now I'm picking this season.
You helped him.
Yes, I helped him. So, no, it was a great Coach Dryling was just sending me that on Saturday morning, and we had a big laugh back and forth on the email. And I said, obviously you haven't been paying attention to my picks that much this year. But no, I picked St. James in that game and lost. I picked Blue Valley West in that game, lost. I did pick Blue Valley Southwest, so I did get that one right. The other ones, I was
throwing their hands up in the air, like what the heck?
Yeah, I also had Olathe West too, so I was on the wrong side of that one.
And what a great game that was. We'll talk about that one before we kind of move forward here. Olathe Northwest, what a heater they're on, by the way. Winning against rival Olathe West 35-33 in a back and forth game. I think there might have been like 4 lead changes in that game, and they survived a 2-point conversion at the end to hold on.
Well, and Coach Gordon Clark, who's been there for a long time as an assistant, his first year's head coach. And, they've been getting better the last few years. We talked about them a couple weeks ago, and they'd kind of taken that step into, beating the teams they should beat. And now they're like, hey, we got a second shot at some of our rival teams, and they've taken care of their business, and they get Gardner Edgerton. I think it's a great story. I like looking at that bracket, and nothing against the Olathe Norths or the Blue Valleys, or the Blue Valley Norths or the Blue Valley Northwest.
That's some new blood.
New blood.
Yeah,
that's great to see. It's good for football in Kansas City all the way around. Just like Blue Valley Northwest win that state championship last year.
It could be new blood across the board in 6A because Derby lost their quarterback, a very talented kid, very good kid, but broke his leg, and so they'll be changing stuff up against a Manhattan team that already beat them earlier.
Beat them once, yeah.
6A could be brand new.
Yeah, and so I think that's no derby in the state championship game. I don't even know if is that allowed to happen.
I
thought it was in a state
you
law.
even have a state championship game without derby in it? So just cancel it.
I know. What's Joel's cousin going to do? Go to Pittsburgh and watch cousin play possibly?
Hopefully, hopefully if Mill Valley's there. Yes, hopefully. Absolutely. All right. Good stuff from last week. As predicted, a lot of good games, a lot of big results, which leads into this week in our Remax Big Three. Tough decisions this week, Dion, for your Remax Big Three.
As we were texting last night, you said I should have thrown Mays and Hayes in there, and I thought about it. I was like, that should have been just as a joke.
I mean, how often do you have a semifinal where the teams rhyme, Dion?
I know.
Mays and Hayes.
Mays and Hayes. It's great. I mean, it's to see who plays the winner of Mill Valley, Blue Valley, Southwest.
Ooh,
so the Big Three this week.
Valleys, and then Mays and Hayes.
Yeah.
Rhyme on both
5A's got it going on in the naming. They've got the best naming, no doubt.
All right, let's take a look at your Big Three games. I want to start on the Missouri side if we can. Okay. You got Pleasant Hill at Maryville in a Class 3 quarterfinal. We're in the final 8 in Class 3 on the Missouri side. Can the Roosters take down a kind of the derby of Missouri Class 3 football?
The one thing I think that the Pleasant Hill is going for it is the same thing that when I talked to Odessa coach Mark Thomas last week is they two platoon. They have one guy going both ways. They have a ton of depth.
Great. I mean, at the Class 3 level,
at the Class 3 level, and Maryville, they have a lot of guys going both ways. They're a tough team to defend an option, but they throw the ball a little more this year than they have in the past. Both teams are so well coached. Matt Webb at Maryville has been doing it there for a decade, and then Justin Hamilton, we've seen what he's done with Pleasant Hill in a very short amount of time, taking them from 0-10 to now having a chance. They're 2 wins away from going to the state championship game for the first time since 1974, the only time they've ever been in one. I think Coach Hamilton said they were in the semis one other time. They are definitely a team that is their only loss is to Center. That's it. I mean, that's their only loss, and they've handled pretty much everybody else. Odessa played them a little closer in the early part of the season, but then Pleasant Hill handled them last week. Maryville's been in some tough, tight games. They lost a tough one to Lutheran North. They lost a tough one to St. Pius early. They played Blair Oaks. Their schedule is outstanding, and it's got them prepared. And they're used to being in this spot. So Pleasant Hill's back in the same spot they were last year. They won the district and played St. Pius and got beat. So that's these kids are there too. So no, I think that Class 3 game is going to be a fantastic one, and we're going to have coverage of that. Very happy to send one of our guys is going to trek up to Maryville on Saturday, and go get that game and get some highlights and coverage of that game.
Well, that'll be great. And I'm still stuck on the 2 platoon part. I mean, literally you need 22 guys to do that. But in all actuality, you need 60 to 80 at least.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah, and they've done a great job of building that depth. And Pleasant Hill is one of those teams that's right on that line of Class 3, Class 4. In fact, when we were talking about that going into that Pleasant Hill Center game, Coach Hamilton at Pleasant Hill and Coach DeLong at Center have become pretty good friends over the last few years. They coached together in an all-star game, and he said Hamilton said they spent all summer talking to each other, wondering if one of them was going to 4, both of them were going to 4, both of them were staying in 3. And so for those two, it worked out well. They got to play each other in the regular season, and one of them goes to 4, and the other one stays in 3, and they can go on and don't have to see each other again. But no, it's going to be that Maryville Pleasant Hill game is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight.
Yeah, awesome stuff there. All right, also on the Missouri side, Class 5. You have Fort Osage and Grain Valley. I love the rematches in the playoffs, but I love them when they're a rematch from like week 1, because that's 2 different seasons pretty much at that point, and you could get 2 entirely different teams. One could have gone up, one could have gone down. I think in this case they've both kind of gone up, and we'll see. We'll see if Grain Valley's bridge that gap.
Grain Valley lost 33-14 the first game. Neither one of them really want to ever watch that game again, because even though Fort Osage scored 33 points and won that game, it was so sloppy. Yeah. It looked like a week 1 game, and both of them put the ball on the ground. They did not look good. Grain Valley would go on to start 1-2, and they've won 8 in a row. Fort Osage would start 2-2, and they've won 7 in a row. So what started the season as a game like, oh, hey, we're going to see this game again. About a month into the season, we're like, no, I don't know if either one of these teams are any good. And here we are, 2 months later, and they're right back, and they're mirror images of each other. They play tough defense. They're so well coached. Their offense is based on the run game. They're built for a cold Friday night in November, and that's what we're going to see. It's going to be a fantastic game. I haven't decided which way I'm picking on this one. Last year, it's a rematch of last year's quarterfinal, to which was I think a 1-score game at halftime, and then Fort Osage just blew their doors off in the second half. It just kind of unraveled for Green Valley. I don't see that happening this year. I think that those kids that were Green Valley was kind of a young team last year. They graduated a lot of seniors from a team that had been in the quarterfinals the 2 years before that. So this is the 4th straight year Green Valley has been in the quarterfinals, and the 3rd straight year in Class 5. So it says a lot about where that program's come from. Their chance to go to the semifinals for the first time since 1996, when they were Class
for Green Valley
2.
Wow. Oh, I know, right?
2.
Gosh, the ascension you've seen in 20, 30 years.
So that year, when I was at the Examiner, going into the last week of the season, the number 1 team in Class 5, it was 5A at that time, was Blue Springs. They were undefeated.
And there was no big class then, right?
They had to split. They don't split into 6 until a few years later. In Class 3, Oak Grove was 9-0 and number 1. And in Class 2, Green Valley was 9-0 and number 1.
Wow.
Green
Oak Grove
Valley
stayed in Class 3, and Green Valley, which I'm sure at the time it was like, where's Green Valley? What tiny little burg is that? Just shot up.
Yes, in fact, they are well into Class 5, and I don't know if they'll get to Class 6. I think they'll open another high school before they get to Class 6.
Okay.
There's only so many schools that want to go into Class 6. Blue Springs, we love it. We just want to get big. We don't care. We got 2 schools. Keep adding on. We don't care.
That's great. I don't know why I went Class 3 to Class 5 to Class 4, but that's what we're doing here with the big 3 games of the week, and just a huge one in Class 4 in the quarterfinals. Center and Smithville. This one at Smithville, and you've got high-powered offense against just suffocating defense here. Is that the storyline?
Yeah, a Smithville defense that puts 11 guys to the ball. I mean, that's what they do. I mean, they don't necessarily have the big, huge guys, and they've got a lot of good team speed, and they run to the ball really well, and they're well coached defensively. Offensively, they're pretty. Andrew Hedgecorth is a great dual threat guy at quarterback, and a lot of the names graduated off that Smithville team, but he is still there and is doing a fantastic job. And then you match up with center, and they got speed. They got speed on the offensive line. They got speed on the defensive line. They got speed everywhere, and they're healthy. So it's going to be interesting to see how these 2 teams go after each other. And it's we knew that center was probably going to play one of those. Excuse me. Still battling here. Had to play one of those teams, and they're finally going to get it done this time.
Yeah. All right. Over on the Kansas side, your big 3 games of the week. There's only 3. Right.
Makes it easy.
I'll go in order this time. We'll start in 4A. St. James and Bishop BH. It's a huge rivalry, but this is the first time they've met in the playoffs since 2012, because Bishop BH has been 4A forever. Aquinas comes down in football for 4A this year, and they're meeting the semifinals to go to a state championship game. And look, Randy Dreiling, he's going for a title in a 3rd different classification. Yeah. That's not a record. It's got to be close to one, I would think.
I don't know who else has done it on the Kansas side. I know Mark Thomas has won titles with 3 different teams, but it's only 2 different classes, because Boonville and Odessa were both in Class 3 and Kearney was in Class 4. So no, it's quite an achievement. I think Miege is hungry for this game because they did not play well. They didn't.
That was the first loss of the year. We thought Miege were just going to cruise
20-7 lead, and they gave it up, man. And that was kind of the Aquinas right around that time where Aquinas, where Coach Dreiling was just like, we've got back-to-back. They had back-to-back losses. They didn't look like they were playing all that well. The Shine had come off the 3-0 start. They weren't finishing drives, and then they get down in the first half, and it looks like it's more of the same. And then they just turn it on. And they've been playing really well since that time. And I think this is going to be a fantastic back and forth game. Looking forward to watching that game Friday night. It's going to be a fun night on Friday, flipping through streams and trying to catch different games and see how they go. But that one's going to be all 3 of those games.
Really correct, and that is just going to be a packed house. You have all those roofs of all the houses surrounding Bishop Miege stocked full with people. It's going to be 20 degrees. But I imagine there'll be plenty of people up there peeking in on what's going to be one of the holiest of holy wars. All right, in 5A, in Kansas. You have Blue Valley Southwest at Mill Valley for the right to go to the 5A state championship game in Pittsburgh. And look, it was either going to be the biggest game in DeSoto history, probably, or the biggest game in Blue Valley Southwest history, because Southwest hasn't been this far. They're 6-5, and they've never made it to the semifinals this year. And here they are. And boy, they got there like gangbusters with a 69-point showing against DeSoto. But on the other side of the school district, you have a Mill Valley team that hasn't given up a point in the playoffs and has given up only 3 points since they fell to Olathe North in week 8.
Yeah, they've played pretty angry the last few weeks. There's no doubt about that. And they, it seems to me that, I mean, when you get the postseason, you get up now. The rain game, I think that that was one of those games where the defense probably stayed in the entire game just because it was that type of game. And but there's something about shutting out playoff opponents. It's not easy to do, even if you're that much better than a team, because your 2s go in sometimes and they give up, or if you're up big time, your 3s go in and they may give up a score. There's a seems like, I don't know, you would know more about this than I would with having a child on the defense. There seems to be a conscious decision of, we're here to shut people out. They are,
but it's the 2s as well. And I tell you, they've run the clock in 7 of the 11 games, right? So it's a different dynamic in the second half, far fewer possessions. That clock's just rolling, but 2s are coming in, 3s are coming in, and they're holding the ground. Mill Valley's given up 64 points this year total, right? 64. 2 of those touchdowns are pick sixes.
Pick sixes.
Yes. They've only given up the defense, and the starting defense has given up 43 of those 50 points that are left. They've only given up 7 points, the defense has, in the second half. That's it. Now, part of it is a running clock, but part of it is too, I mean, the backups are there too to make sure there's no points being scored. There's a reason that Mill Valley's yet to lose a sub-varsity game in the Sunflower League over 3 years, freshman and JV. I mean, they're stocked before that. But yes, there was a game earlier in the season where the 2s gave up a score, and they were not happy about that, and that prevented a shutout. And so they've been able to do it. So there's a couple factors there, but yeah, no, I think it's a stated purpose. But you got a team coming in.
Well, yeah, that's rolling.
That scored 69 points. I bet they get the end zone.
Well, and Southwest last week was doing more just straight go routes and double moves and deep balls and things like that. I think that they're going to be tested by that Mill Valley defense. But the front 4 of Mill Valley's defense has got to get home. I think to cover that 4 or 5 wide, it's going to be on that Mill Valley front 4 and on that Blue Valley Southwest offensive line. That's where the big battle is going to be.
Yeah, it's a rematch from last year in the quarterfinals. These 2 met at Mill Valley. Mill Valley getting the win last year. We'll see this year who prevails. Up in 6A, we talked about it, the new blood. It's Olathe Northwest and Gardner. Gardner's been here before, not too many times, but they've been here before. Olathe Northwest never has.
Yeah, no, Olathe Northwest has never been in the semis, and Gardner's only been in the semis. I think, have they been in 6A?
Is it just once, or
I think once maybe in 6A.
With Bravo when they went to Emporia and they lost to Randy Dryling.
Well, that was 5A. That was 5A.
5A. But I mean, overall, but
yeah,
have they made it this far in 6A?
I don't think they have. I need to double check that. I'm pretty sure they haven't. But they are.
I mean, Bubba was the quarterback for 4 years. There's a chance they got there.
Well, they were never 5A his whole time.
Okay. Well, you're talking. Okay, I'm talking any semifinal.
Yeah. So they've been in the semifinals before. So there's no doubt about that. But no, they are playing fantastic. They got down in that game 14-0. And we're in total control of that game, down 14-0. They moved the ball all the way down the field, fumbled it. West ran it back for a touchdown. They moved the ball down the field again, didn't get a score. West got one good drive in, they're down 14-0. But really from that point on, they dominated. Their defense played fantastic, did a fantastic job on Zach Darsh and that team. And then also offensively, they are just churning and burning. They are running, they're flexible and they throw a ball a little bit out of it. And they are physical and they are tough. Olathe Northwest can score. They've got a tough physical running game. They throw a ball well enough. Defensively, they're pretty good. They're pretty solid. They do enough to keep the offense will, to keep them in the game so the offense can score. I think it's fantastic. I'm so thrilled for both those programs and both those coaches to have a chance to go to a state championship game.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one, which has been it's been a great 6A bracket. We've had so many good games.
We all knew coming in this year it could be like this. I mean, we didn't know it was gonna be these two teams, but we knew that it was as wide open as it'd been in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely, we did. All right, some games we're missing here. Let's make sure we cover them all. Chances of Liberty North and Lee Summit North, Dion, facing off for a state title. They're playing in semifinal games. Lee Summit North is at DeSmet, and then you have Liberty North hosting CBC.
Yes, I think chances are good. Last year we almost got there. Lee Summit North kind of had CBC beat. Gave up a big play, but then came right back, got a big play of their own and couldn't punch it in to take the lead. I think they take the lead. They have a good chance of winning that game. This year, I think that, Liberty North is a year older. They've got that experience of going that deep. Same with Lee Summit North, even though there's a lot of different faces on that team offensively and defensively. But they know the drill. They're getting on the bus on Friday. They're driving to St. Louis. They're playing at a Catholic school. So there's nothing new for Lee Summit North this year in terms of what their expectations are. Liberty North, same way. Saturday, playing the CBC team they played last year. They came out and got a turnover right away. It looked like if they could punch it in and get a touchdown, they could, grab the momentum early. They didn't. They went to go get a field goal on a windy day. Their very good field goal kicker missed. And then it just kind of unraveled on them. I mean, CBC kind of took over, and then they turned it over 5 times. Obviously, the worst performance they'd had all season long. You're talking about a Sam Van Dyne, I think, who had, 2 interceptions going into that game last year and threw 3 or 4 in the state championship game, has 0. Of course, now I've just jinxed him, I'm sure, heading into this game this year. I've heard that CBC's defense is not quite as fast and as potent as it was last year. Still a very good team. You're talking about DeSmet was ranked most of the season, but they've lost a bunch of games. They played a pretty tough schedule. But you're talking about Liberty North, CBC, and Lee Summit North, who have pretty much been 1, 2, and 3 all season long. And they are the 3 best teams, and they are playing for it. And DeSmet's probably, based on that district, the number 4 team, and it's definitely going to be a tough game for both, but I like both their chances to get there.
Yeah. All right, so we've talked Class 6, Class 5, Class 4, and Class 3. Class 2 now, Lafayette County just humming along, still undefeated. They get by Bowling Green?
I think they can. They got by Richmond 7-6 last week. Richmond has some kind of – that's the only team that's played them within a score all season long. They've just blown everybody out. Richmond, they had to score late to win by 6 the first time they played them, and they beat them 7-6. And I listened to most of that game last week. It was a punt fest. I mean, it was a lot of tough defense, and it was just, teams punting and just – hard hitting and that I think a good shot to get past Bowling Green, and then we'll see from there. I think they have Blair Oaks on their side. It's going to be tough with that Blair Oaks team, and they're really good. Dylan Hare, their 7-year starter. Well, actually, he's only 4, but his brother started the 3 years before that.
Yeah, always Hare's.
But no, I think Lafayette County's got a good shot, and I don't know if Steve Cook gets enough credit for what he's done at Lafayette County. I think I've made the statement that if Lamar did not exist, we'd be talking about Lafayette County's 3, 4, maybe 5 state championships in the last 12, 13 years.
And then Lamar at Holden is another quarterfinal game.
Quarterfinal. Yeah, David Diener, the name sounds familiar. Yes, it's Marvin Diener's son, is the coach.
No way. Okay.
Has done a fantastic job with that program. He took over a team that was over, couldn't win. And has got them to the point where they're winning a district title. They were down to Pembroke Hill last week and came back and won that game. They have 3 losses this year, 3 losses. They lost to Mid-Buchanan in a close game. They lost to Richmond in a close game, and they kind of got blown out by Lafayette County, but there's no shame in that. But no, fantastic season for them. They get Lamar. They get him at home. Anything is possible. That it's definitely a step up for them to get Lamar, but I think what Coach Diener's done at Holden this year, and that like the last 3 years actually, is fantastic. That's a team that has had some history, early in the 2010s of playing well, and now it's good to see that team playing well again, winning a district title and playing the quarterfinals.
And then in Class 1, you talk about a dominant defending state champ playing great defense. East Buckstone 4 straight shutouts here. Yes,
and they are playing a Gallatin team that has kind of broken through. They've got some guy named Chris Holt, which if you're a fan of high school football, you know that he was at Maryville, then he went to Oak Park for a little while, then he got out of coaching, then he went to Lathrop and took them to a state championship game. He is now coaching at Gallatin, and shocking, they are very good. So This is going to be a big test for East Buchanan. They just beat Mid Buchanan last week, 21-0. Like you talk about having players. They've got 60 some kids on that team. They've got as much depth as anybody in Class 1, and that's really going to show well for them. So I think East Buchanan will get by. I think they're going to win the state championship. I mean, I think it's them and Monroe City are the two best teams, but I think East Buchanan's, it's a really good test for them. But playing the KCI, they played Lawson, they played, Mid-Buck and Penny and West Platte and all those teams. They're pretty well tested going into this postseason.
And then finally, Marionville and Adrian. This one at Adrian in Class 1.
Adrian won the district title, beat Butler last week. Marionville is in Southwest Missouri, coming up for that game. And fun fact: Marionville wanted to play at 2, and Adrian said, "Okay, that's fine." Well, I guess when you go from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., there's certain lighting things that you have to have.
Yeah, especially during standard time.
Yes. And Adrian would had to have done some upgrades. And Adrian's like,
lights are expensive.
Yeah, no, we're not bringing in extra lights. We're going to play at 1.
One's fine.
One's fine. So they're going to play. They were back to 1 o'clock. Yeah. So the Marionville's coming in. They're going to play at 1. Adrian, consistently been a really solid Class 1 program over the last 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, they have a great history with George Bruto and won state titles, in the last 30 years, but just consistently a good program. They've got a shot here. Marionville's a pretty good team. But Adrian with a shot to go to the semifinals. They went to semifinals a couple of years ago where they lost to Mid Buchanan. So good run, another good run for them.
Good deal. All right. So we've exhausted time unless you want to get into the Simone's at all here.
Simone ballot comes out next week. Wide open.
That'll be like 10, right? For 10 on each.
10 on each one. And I'll tell you, I think every award is as wide open as it's been since we've been doing this. I could easily tell you, Mac, some people are like, oh, Mac Armstrong at Miege for the Fontana.
Got the center guys.
Sean Carroll, the guys from center, Andrew Headcourt from Smithville, Easton Rowe, the quarterback at Pleasant Hill. I can list off and I don't have
Mac's numbers are insane.
Mac's numbers are great. Eudora's got great players, and they've got some guys who put up numbers. I mean, there's a lot of, we always know the Bell is competitive because they're, though Camden Beebe is a guy to keep an eye on for that one. He's probably one of the favorites.
So many Beebes. You can't stop the Beebes. I think this is the last one.
This is the last one. The Buchanan. Which D1 guy who's going to play on Sunday do you want for that award?
That's the one. Like, there's some awards where it's like, okay, nobody's really broken out of the pack and had a phenomenal season. And that might be the Simone Award this year, but not the Buchanan. It's like, okay, which one of these, 6 or 8 guys that's broken out of the pack are we going to choose?
Yeah. And then, you look at the Simone, we talk Sam Van Dyne, we talk Malik, Malik Oatis and Grant Stubblefield. Well, they haven't played game. Their teams are done. Sam Van Dyne's still playing. A little bit, yeah. No, I think it's. And Dylan maybe there's some guy who threw 8 touchdowns maybe to be won these next 2 weeks with some of those big school kids that are still playing. Yes. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be one of those where you say, I think that depends on how the coaches vote to get to the top 4. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that Simone floats out, but it's going to be, we'll have our medium committee get together this week and work on the ballot. No, it's going to be a lot of fun. And basically next week we'll kick off all things Simone as we roll through the end of the state championships.
That sounds great. Sounds like a plan. Should be fun. Semifinals and quarterfinals this Friday and Saturday. We're spilling over. We got some 1 o'clock games, not some 2 o'clock games. 1 o'clock games.
All 1 o'clock. All 1 o'clock
on Saturday. So 2 days to decide, the next round of teams that are moving on. Should be fun. It always is. Dion, have a great Friday night. It's going to be cold out there. Layer up. Well, you'll be inside.
I'll be inside. I'll be inside.
Woo.
Hand warmers.
Goosebumps just thinking about it. Sneak in one of those portable heaters that nobody sees.
You're royalty out there.
Bring your cardboard. Stand on the cardboard. I still don't understand how that works, but apparently it does.
That's what everybody says. Sit and stand on the cardboard.
Stand on the cardboard. All right. Here we go. It's all for the kids. All for the kids. All right.
I don't know. When I go to football games, I sit in club level. I'm not standing on any cardboard. So that's how.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't go unless I'm in club level.
All right, guys. Good luck to all the teams on Friday and Saturday. Best of luck. Dion, enjoy it. Be sure to catch up with all the action on PrepsKC.com and see all the highlights. I think literally all the highlights.
We should.
Under the
Friday
lights
night we'll have highlights
KSHB
for everybody.
41.
I'm assuming you can get us some St. Louis highlights. St. Louis.
We'll work on that.
That's the one thing in St. Louis.
One thing. We'll work on it. So, all right, for Dion, I'm Mick. We'll see you next time right here on Snap Tackle Pod.